I've shared pieces of this before, and I still get asked questions about it. So I really want to go in depth. It might be a long video, but I want to take you step by step by step on how I got from, afraid to tell people I was psychic to owning a business called Psychic Life, and really not being afraid at all to share what I do and who I am with people, and to make money at it and to make it my life, because that's important too. I get asked a lot, what was my first step? And I want to break it down really, really, really small pieces for you so that you can understand that this is a complete lifestyle evolution. You are becoming different people at every step of the way. You see where someone is ending up, and you know where you're starting. And I want you to have this kind of understanding that you can go from, start to finish if you want to, or you can go, in like a million different pieces. You can go this way, you can go that way, you can go whatever way you want to go. The reason why you would go in tiny little steps is to experience your growth. The reason why you'd go from start to finish would be to experience that growth. So there's no right or wrong way to go. It's just that if you go in smaller steps, you experience yourself becoming new all the time. Every single day, you're a different person. Every single day, you're growing. You're realizing, oh, I can't believe I treated myself like that. Oh, I can't believe I was afraid of that. And you get to experience those tiny little shifts in a bigger way than if you skip all that and go right to the end. Your higher self is in charge of this whole process. And so it's up to that version of you, really, which path you're on. But you can jump in and you can claim more power of the process. And that's where I'm at now. And so I'm going to go back to the beginning right now and tell you where it started. And then at the end, you'll figure out how you can claim more power in this relationship to really help your higher self merge, integrate with your higher self so that you can be the one steering the ship too. Okay, so number one, I was a psychic kid. I always knew I was different. I always knew I was unique. I always knew I was special because other people around me didn't really seem like me. There was just some kind of difference, and I knew it. I was always really happy. I was always like really excited, and I could play by myself for hours, and I was always entertained. And yeah, I had an imaginary brother named Matt who later turned out to be my I figured out was my spirit guide. I didn't know it then. I just knew he was my friend. And I did see angels, and I did talk to my grandpa when he died. But the thing is, and this is something I really, really want you to get, I didn't know there was a label called psychic that applied to me. I didn't know that's what it was. And if you think about it, that makes a really big difference in knowing what I could and couldn't do with it. Even when I started talking to my grandpa who was dead, I was 12. And my parents knew, and I would tell them what he said, and I would tell my grandma. And at that point, we were sort of starting to figure it out, but there still wasn't that label of psychic. You're psychic on it. And a lot of you are very sensitive, very open, very psychic, but you don't call yourself that, or you don't claim that for yourself. And it does make a difference. You feel like you're not up to par. You can't do anything with it. You can't grow it on your own. You can't invest in that talent because you lack that claiming of that label. Same was true for me. I was really interested in metaphysics. It was a big interest of mine, and yet I thought I was just learning. I thought I was just curious. I didn't know it really applied to me, and I was able to do that stuff. So when I was 14, I moved into a house that had a lot of what I would call, what most people would call negative spirit activity. It caused great discomfort for me. It was not a great time for me in my happiness meter. It was pretty low because I was getting harassed on a daily basis and nightly basis from these things that were in the house. And at first, this is important too, I didn't see physically with my eyes these things. I just knew they were there, kind of. Like, if my door in my bedroom was open, say this much, I felt something there. And I felt just a presence. Maybe like something was there. And so sometimes I would say, oh, hey, how you doing? How are you? What are you doing there? But I really... Yeah? Oh my god, dude! My phone... Wait, who called? Did you call me? Oh my god, dude, I'm recording a video right now about living in a haunted house, and my phone, listen to this, my phone was on my desk. It answered itself and it put itself on fucking speaker. And this is on video right now. This is being recorded. I have the chills too. Okay, so I'm back, and as you just saw, I was talking about living in a haunted house and having some interesting encounters and talking to people that I couldn't see yet. And my phone that was on my desk, I didn't hear it ring. It's on silent, but it should have been buzzing. I didn't even hear that. Answered itself and put itself on speaker. And I don't know, you never know. It's a new phone. I'm not sure if it does that normally or not, but that's pretty interesting to happen. So, life is never dull, folks. Ever, ever, ever when you're on this path. So getting back to the story. I didn't know that I was psychic, because no one had ever called me psychic before. And I was feeling things in my house, but I couldn't see them yet. And I was still talking to them. But I wasn't labeling it, I wasn't claiming it, I wasn't knowing that that is really who I am and that's really what was going on. And there's a big difference in thinking that you are feeling ghosts or presences and knowing that you're feeling them. I wasn't in the knowing yet. I wasn't able to say, I know there is a ghost in my room, and now what? What do we do about it? All I knew was that I felt it there, and that I was talking to it. And it was even catching me by surprise that I was talking to it. It's not like it was a premeditated thing. It was just like, oh, hey, what are you doing there? Because I felt it. And that's just what came out of my mouth. That's it. I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't worrying about it. I wasn't, trying to track it down. It just came out of my mouth. And then other things kept happening at that house. A lot of you have asked me about this house, and I'm actually working on a book. I really am. Lots of stuff happened there, and it got really bad to the point where I couldn't sleep in my room anymore. I had to, for a while, sleep in my car at night, and then I finally had to move out of the house and move into my grandparents' house for a while. And at that point, my parents knew something was really wrong. And so they took me to the only person that they knew, which was the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed was still alive then, and it was a great thing because there I got something I hadn't gotten yet, validation. They told me, they tested me, in fact, asked me if I could see Lorraine's aura, and I couldn't, which was weird because I was seeing auras everywhere. And that it turns out that she was regulating her energy so that I wouldn't be able to see her aura, so that way I wouldn't, if I was lying, she would know about it. And lo and behold, they said, your daughter's not crazy, she's psychic. And finally, I had the label, and I could understand more of who I was. I could give myself permission to know who I was. And that's quite a different thing than being confused and being worried and thinking something was wrong with me and having my dad say I was crazy. And, it was quite a relief to know that there was a word that could be used to describe me. And now I'm not saying that this is necessary for everyone, but validation is a big thing in this world, you know? We're very untrusting of our instincts, and having that validation allows you to sort of relax and then go deeper into yourself. And that's exactly what happened for me. So I got that validation, I got that piece of information, and from a trusted source, no less, and I was able to really go about my business. Now, it got a lot worse before it got better for me in the house anyway, in life. I got depressed for a while. The things that I had tried to escape from my house followed me into the other house, and it was quite a mess, but I did get through it, and I, obviously I'm fine now, and I'm much better for having gone through that experience. Okay, so fast forward like 3 years, and in high school I met a guy who was very similar to me in that he was able to see these things, he was able to feel these things, and he was also psychic. I didn't quite know that at the time, of course, but we were very drawn to each other, ended up getting married a couple years after high school. And it was a definite soulmate relationship, very tumultuous, very wonderful, very bad, very good and awesome, and all sorts of mixing, a jumble of things. We had very amazing experiences together, energetically, spiritually. We saw the same things in the woods, these big, angels with horse bodies, and I'm sure there's a word for that. It might be a centaur, but same kind of deal. We had amazing things happen. It just didn't work out in the long run. And through that relationship, I really kind of lost myself. I put all of me into the relationship and became a person who I wasn't so connected with anymore. I wasn't knowing myself for who I really was. And I didn't even really know it. I was letting the outside world tell me who I was, or who I could be, or who I was allowed to be. And I was creating it the whole time. I'm not trying to put any kind of blame on anything else. It's just that that's the experience that my higher self wanted me to go through and learn and live, and that's all fine. But I had created the situation where I didn't know who I was, and I was unavailable really to check in with myself and see who I was. And so I was afraid to call myself a psychic. I was afraid to go out on my own. I was afraid to, speak up at work. I was afraid to dye my hair a different color than a normal color. And you all know me by now. I love crazy colored hair. I was afraid to dress in a, interesting way like I used to. I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of my own voice, most of all. And how I got myself out of that was that I realized that that's no way to live. I'm absolutely miserable. My relationship is horrible. My job is horrible. I hate what I'm doing with myself right now. And the only way to really get back there is to know who I am and what I am. And what I did was I started to get quiet. I started to be able to listen to my body. I started to really just sit at my desk for a few minutes each day and, write a little bit, ask myself questions like, what do I want to do? What makes me excited? How do I feel about this situation? What's the best thing to do for me? And, I asked about myself, I asked about my relationship, I asked about my life direction. And it was just those few minutes a day at my desk, looking out the window. I can still see it in my brain as if I'm watching myself sit at my desk. Those made a big difference. That created some space in me for my higher self to give me that information through my body. I started to connect the dots. What do I like to do? What is something that I do that most other people can't do or don't know about? What can I offer the world, and what lights me up? That's how I came up with my first step. It was terrifying, absolutely, but I know I had to do it. and I knew that I could do this thing called intuitive drawing, where I can draw psychic information and decode it by looking at the drawing. It's pretty cool. And I hadn't heard of anyone else doing that, and so what I did is I emailed some, didn't even call, I emailed some metaphysical, wellness centers in Connecticut, and I told them about what I do, and I asked them if they would want to have that service at their place. Because a lot of these places, psychics will go in for an afternoon, or massage, will be booked through them, and it's kind of a freelance deal. And so I thought this would be perfect. Didn't have the courage to call anybody, but I could definitely email them. And I emailed a few, and one, got back to me and said, "We'd love to meet you." And here I was again, terrified. And I went down there and I did a sample for them. I believe I only did one of them, but they were impressed enough. My hair was, I think my hair at the time was a little bit green because I was kind of getting over my fear. And it was starting to work. They said yes, they were excited about me, even though I'm sure I must have looked like I wanted to crawl into a little hole. And they, booked me for a few things here and there, and I got more comfortable with them, and then I got more comfortable with the people at the store, and, made some friends. And these were friends who were more in the direction that I wanted to go. They were out. They were weird. They were weird in public. They had a metaphysical bookshop and wellness center in Connecticut. They weren't hiding it. That's how they made their living too. And it was a big deal. And I was still scared for a long time going there. I was very quiet. I really didn't speak up much. I wasn't very confident in anything other than what I was doing for them. And it was a big deal for me to be there, and I knew it. And after a while I did less of the intuitive drawing, but I did more of the general psychic readings because that's what most people wanted, and I was comfortable with that. After a while I was still terrified before I would show up, and it grew like that, one tiny little step at a time, one tiny little terrifying step at a time. I was proving to myself that I could do it every step of the way, even though I was scared, really scared. The first talk that I ever gave, the first class you could call it really, was called Chat with a Medium, and it was just me and me explaining what it was like to be a medium to people, what it was like to talk to spirits, what it was like to see spirits. And I remember I was so scared that I made up a little outline of what I wanted to cover. And, it was just a piece of paper, and I had, typed up some things on it, and I was really nervous. There was only like 6 or 7 people there sitting in a horseshoe around me, and I kept looking at the paper and reading off the paper, and they're like, "You're better when you're not reading off the paper." And so I was like, oh my God, I had to put it down, and I had to talk, and I had to, come up with what to say. And knowing me now, I have some pointers sometimes for my classes, but that's about it. I sort of just riff off the top, and I allow what needs to be said to be said. And back then, it was a completely different story. I was only really in the flow while I was in my reading work, and in talking with people, more than one person at a time. It was quite hard, very hard. And that was about 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago now, but, it grew slowly from there. I did more talks, I did more readings, I discovered what I liked to do best, what I didn't like to do, and then I found that, just sort of going with the flow like that wasn't building my business much. I wasn't putting much into it. I wasn't calling people and, booking them in. I wasn't calling other centers. I wasn't doing anything to grow this thing. I was kind of expecting it to just grow from word of mouth, and it did a little bit, but not at the rate that I had wanted. But that was really to be expected. And so I learned a good lesson there, and that if you want a business, you need to really go there. You need to step into that and know that you want a business and not just a hobby. What I had was a hobby. I would see people a couple times a month. I'd have clients, and on the weekends I would have my walk-in readings at that center. And learning about business really changed a lot for me. I started understanding what coaching was and who coaches were and what they did for you. And I learned about opt-ins and conversion rates and free gifts to build your email list, and teleseminars and online stuff like Skype, and doing readings over the phone and over the internet, and really having fun with that, and knowing, that you could write a blog post that's strategic, that leads to people wanting to know about your program. It's a different way of doing things if you're just sharing than if you are wanting to build a business. It doesn't have to be as big as you think, but normally there is some kind of mindset involved in business, and knowing that that's kind of, you're excited about the business part too. I'm excited about the business part now too. I love learning about it, and I love incorporating that into my life. And so that has become part of my journey. If you, like a lot of you are, wanting to be living your soul purpose, and that soul purpose is a business, if you want to offer your services to people, then it's a business, then it's a good idea to learn about business and to know what other successful people do. It's not that you have to copy them at all. You don't want to copy them. What you really want to do is go where you're excited to go. But by seeing other people, you kind of get a feel for what direction you want to go in. I learned a lot just from the various coaches I've had over the years, and I still learn from them. And I didn't agree with a lot of their advice for me, because I know what will work for me based on what I'm excited about. And so that same is true for you, but you kind of have to know a little bit about the business side if that's what you're excited about. If you're excited about having a business, then learn about business and then go where you're excited to go. So that's what I did then. And slowly I brought my business up from like 200, 300, 500 a month up, 10 times that, working part-time, but incorporating those business things into it. And now this year, I've been working full-time at it. Well, full-time for me, which is probably like 30 hours a week. And it's great. This year I've made over $5,000. And it's just a few weeks in. So it's good. Life is good. And, you put together the pieces. So there is some stuff to do here on this earth. There is some action that needs to be taken, but it's inspired action. Okay? From that time that I knew that I wanted to, email those metaphysical centers because I wanted to be myself in public, right? To the time that I changed my program from like this high-end VIP only thing to a more inclusive model, which is the membership model, which I have now. I did that because I was inspired to do it. I was excited to do it, and that's what felt right to me. But I experimented along the way. Along the way, you are going to find things that work for you, things that don't work for you. And oftentimes, since we are here in bodies, the only way you'll be able to know is if you start. Start taking action. Start doing things. Start making offers. Start writing classes and just deliver them and see how you feel. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you not like it? Is it a process for you? Are you getting over a fear? Is it serving your purpose? I've had clients that I didn't really like, and they taught me a lot. I've had clients that I've loved and become friends with, and they've taught me a lot. Like, the whole journey is inspired. The whole journey is for you. Your higher self is creating this entire thing for your benefit. And that's always such a good thing to know and to remember. You are doing this. You are creating this. And I told you in the beginning that I was going to let you in on where I am now. So I am used to listening to my higher self now, daily, moment to moment. And I let my higher self speak to me through my body. So when I'm excited about something, when there's more energy in my body, then I'm being guided in that direction. Whatever I'm thinking about, whatever I'm doing, it's like, do more of that. When I'm feeling lethargic or a little bit empty or a little bit heavy here, then I just know that maybe I'm not going in the right direction. Maybe this is something that I need to take my power back from. If there's discomfort in the moment, then I know that I have power somewhere I don't want it to be. Because my goal, my aim, if there is one, is to become more engaged, more integrated with my higher self. And that means more energy here. More power and energy here. And more energy feels like good. It feels bright. You know when you feel more energized. So when I don't feel that, I say, I'm taking my power back from this situation that I created. And I see this as a limitation, and limitation is not real. We are huge, abundant, amazing, wonderful, universe-creating beings. We don't know limitation. The only place we have it is when we create it for ourselves. Yes, even here. Yes, even here. We create this limitation for ourselves to grow, to experience, to, play around in. This is our little play box, which is great, But when you get to a point where you're integrating, where you're becoming your higher self in the body, when you've integrated so much and you are listening so much, integrating, by the way, it just means, if you know my hot and cold game thing, where you ask your higher self a question, and when you feel that tingly, warm expansion, it's a yes, and you feel that dense contraction, it's a no. You're integrating when you're doing that. You're allowing your body to speak to you. You're allowing your higher self to integrate into your body, and you're doing it. You're doing the biggest spiritual work of all, which is ascending through the body, with the body, bringing the higher self down, grounding your higher self, grounding your soul. That's it. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not a huge thing. And the more you do that, the better off you'll be, and the more control you'll have over your future. Eventually, you'll understand that this is all just a game. It's just a contraption that we've put up for, it's like a pop-up tent. It's not real. There's life outside the tent. Your true self is outside the tent. But we're creating this to experience it right now, and that's all wonderful and good. And the more power you take back from that limitation, from that pop-up tent, there's holes that start to emerge in it. And you start to know that you're more. You start to know that you're bigger. And what happens at that point is that you know that whatever money is in your bank account isn't really real. Like, the money's not real, the debt's not real, the millions aren't real, nothing is really real. You are real on the inside, on the outside, you're creating all this stuff, but as far as there being any kind of limitation to who you are, what you can have, what you can create, there isn't one. There's no limitation. And so then it starts to be, okay, again, what is exciting to me? What is fun for me? Where is my energy? That is what matters. And that is what matters before you reach the point of feeling that you're limitless, and after the point that you feel you're limitless. That's the whole game, the whole shebang. What makes me happy? What excites me? Where is my energy? Watch. Do it and watch. That is my whole story. Start to finish. Where's my energy? Where am I? Okay, where's the real me? Where's the true me? What lights me up? What gives me that signal that my divine presence is present? Okay? Follow that. Write it down. What lights me up? You know, what is the piece that I'm missing right now? What is going to allow me to be more of myself right now? Just ask yourself that and see what pops up in your life. And take note of the things that light you up or the things that don't light you up. Don't worry about the things that don't light you up or take your power back from them. Just know that that is a limitation and it's not real. There are no limitations. There's only you. There's only the creator, and that's you. Appreciate everything you have, regardless of how you feel about it, and then follow your joy, you know, or excitement, or whatever it is that you start with. If you don't have joy right now, follow any little burst of activity, any little tremor of happiness, and you'll create your own amazing journey, no matter where you're starting from a little kid who doesn't know she's psychic, who totally lost her confidence. If you want more about confidence, then go check out my confidence teleclass inside the membership. And I want you to know that you're not alone ever, and that you can live your dreams. You can turn any hobby, any dream into a business, support yourself. You can do it if you want to do it. If that's where your excitement is, then it's definitely possible for you. All right? Lots of love. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.